Thank you so much for coming. Okay. Nicole. I think you're muted, Nicole.
Thank you, Chris. Nicole Beecher, Nicole Beecher, the founder and president of Beecher Etiquette School Incorporated, as well as the Beecher Group, and the prior director of business consulting strategy for Oakland County's Business Forward program.
Great. Again, thanks everyone for showing up. I really appreciate it. It's nice to have this much attendance. I'm going to go over a few of the procurement items, just going over some housekeeping, and then I'm going to turn it over to the department so they can kind of give an explanation of what they're looking for. Firstly, the questions were due on 12/8. We're going to extend that question deadline to give you some more time. So be on the lookout for that. The proposal is due on 12/20. We want to kind of try to stick with that date. We want to have it due before the winter break. So the proposals will be due on 12/20. If there's pushback a couple days, we will inform you through Oracle. And also, we will answer some questions throughout this meeting, but if you wanted some answers formally made, please submit them through the Oracle database. Please don't email, just submit them through Oracle, and we'll answer everyone's questions at the same time and give everyone the questions and answers after we have gathered them. Other than that, what I always like to remind folks is if you plan on doing business with the city of Detroit, it's always a good idea to get what we call an income tax clearance. It's some information involved in the bidding process that'll show you how to get that. And I only mention it, it doesn't cost anything. I only mention it because that is one of the delays that we sometimes go through when we do eventually pick an awardee, and then there's a delay getting the paperwork done. And I know that the department is interested in processing this contract as fast as possible. So if everyone on here, once they leave, can just submit their information to give a tax clearance, it doesn't cost anything. So that's the only reminder on that. Before we get started with the department, are there any questions from a procurement aspect in regards to this particular solicitation? Okay, seeing none. Who would like to speak on this? Trina or Kevin, or who's speaking on this one?
Nikhil or Trina, would you like me to give it a first go? Okay. Thank you everyone for joining. Thanks, Nikhil. Thank you everyone for joining. I can give a kind of a summary of what we're working on here. And obviously you all should have the RFP, so I won't go too into detail on the details in the RFP unless there's questions. But to start with, the land value tax proposal is a high priority project of ours in the Treasury and the Assessor's office. We've been working on this project for actually several years. The first few years we were working with a couple think tanks, including the Lincoln Land Institute and Invest Detroit and Kresge, as well as a consultant from MIT. And we were really analyzing the tax ecosystem in Detroit to understand how a land value tax, also known as a split tax, could benefit Detroit. What we found from our studies is that so what a land value tax or split tax is currently most common property taxes have one tax rate that's applied to every property, whether it's your building or your land. A split tax or a land value tax, actually what it does is applies two different rates, essentially. So a home or a building gets a lower tax rate and the land gets a higher tax rate. The effect is that if most of your value is in your building or your home, you have a net decrease in taxes. But if most of your value is in your land, you have a net increase in taxes. And so our studies found that in the city of Detroit, 97% of homeowners would have tax relief if we pass this, whereas vacant landholders or land speculators would have a tax increase. And so when that happened, our studies showed that it would reduce the number of foreclosures in the city. It would increase business development, and it would increase investment in new housing developments. It would also disincentivize land speculation. And what that means is that it would help encourage speculators to actually sell those pieces of vacant land so that homeowners could buy them more easily for their side lots or for expansions, or developers could buy them more easily for new developments. So we did a lot of work with that study. Then the second phase was we worked with the MIT and invested Troy and Kresge to actually develop the legislation and develop our proposal. So that proposal is currently under consideration in the state legislature. When and if it passes from the state legislature, City Council will need to approve the proposal be put on the ballot, and then it would go on the November 2024 ballot for Detroiters to vote on. So we've already done a lot of work on this, and the next phase, which is what the RFP is for a project management consultant to help us actually prepare for the implementation of this proposal. What that looks like is updates to our current system and processes. So we have two key softwares that we use. They're both run by the same company. It's called BSNA, and they run both our assessment and our tax software. Both of those will need to be modified to be used for the land value tax. In addition to modifications to that software, we'll need to change our processes in both assessors and treasury, because now we're going to be breaking land and buildings out in a way that we haven't before. So our hope is to streamline that as much as possible. We can envision that it could become a very seamless process in the future, but we're want to be preemptively figure out what it's going to look like in the first few years, and it could be less efficient in those first few years if we can't get our software to be able to handle the new form of tax. And so I would envision that our consultant and project manager would work with both the assessors and treasury departments to understand the legislation, really narrow down all the new things that we need to do and the changes to the processes that we need to make, and then help us stress test those processes and do test runs. Because the first thing that will need to happen is next December, and Trina, you can correct me if I'm wrong in the dates, but I believe either next December or January, the assessor's office will send out their annual letters of assessment. And for the first time, we'll need to include the value of land on those assessments. We've never done that before. Trina, I see you came off mute, so.
You're right on track, Kevin.
Okay, great. So that adding that one line seems relatively straightforward, but will take some software and process improvements. And then the next major step will be our new tax bills would go out in July of 2025. And those tax bills will have to now use this new tax system that we still need to develop. So that's my big overview. Trina or Nikhil, is there anything that you'd like to add?
What I'll add, which basically Kevin touched upon, is the goal for the individual or service provider that's selected is really to provide end-to-end management of executing the land value tax program across both offices, but really thinking about all the things we may not have considered, how it impacts other organizations, how it impacts processes, really understanding the legislation, and making sure that we're doing everything from a project manager standpoint to execute and deliver on that legislation and on our processes, and sort of balancing both.
And Kevin and Nikhil essentially spoke to what I was going to mention. This is a added function for both of our offices, so we still have the day-to-day happening in the back. It's high priority, obviously, as Kevin mentioned upon starting. So the person that kind of adopts this project, again, having to learn the legislation and how it fits into our operations across 2 different departments is going to be key. And that's the only thing I wanted to add.
Chris, if I could, I just had kind of 2 additional things to chime in with. So one is still related to the land value tax. There is 4 new credits or 4 new features of the tax system, I would try to say, that the legislation would create. 2 of those should be relatively easy for us to implement, but 2 will actually require a new process that will have to launch in the assessors. The first is that urban farming will be exempted from the new tax system and will be treated under the prior tax system. So we've worked with urban farmers to establish those criteria, but we will need to develop the application for them to actually submit and claim to be an urban farming property. We've said that we would review them every 3 years unless the property was sold. But we do need to just develop that process in the application. The second one is we've said that if you are a business with a parking lot that's required under zoning ordinances, then we're not going to penalize you for having the required parking. And so there will be another application for those businesses to submit, and then we'll figure out exactly how much we need to credit them for so that they don't have the increase. So that will also be another application review process that we'll have to establish. And then the last thing I wanted to add, and sorry to be talking so much, but the RP does make mention of potentially asking for help with other tax programs. I don't know to what extent that would be, but there's just a mention of it, so I wanted to flag it. One potential program is called Pilot, which is an affordable housing program. Again, I don't know if Nikhil or Trina have more information on to what extent we might ask for help with that. But I just want to flag, because it is in the RP, that there are some other tax programs we may ask for help with.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. It was a couple folks that came in a little later before we move forward. Maggie, can you introduce yourself?
I think I'm really zoomed in. Hi, everybody. My name is Maggie. I'm a consultant at a firm called BJH Advisors. We're real estate and tax policy experts. We're based in New York City, but we've done different planning projects in Detroit over the years. We worked on the vacant school study that came out a couple years ago with Interborough, and we saw this RFP and are really interested. We're an MWBE. We're not located in Detroit, but if any of the other firms that are on this call are interested in partnering with us, we'd love to have a conversation about that. So thanks for having the info session.
Thank you, Maggie. And also, are you, I'm assuming you're in our Oracle database?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So I pulled the RFP down from there. Yep.
Okay, great.
What's our company called?
My company's called B as in boy, J as in joy, H as in haha, advisors. And you can look us up online, bjhadvisors.org. We're really passionate about property tax policy, and so I think it's really interesting and cool that Detroit is pursuing a land tax.
Okay, thank you. Also, someone, phone number ending 3909. I think you came in.
Monica.
Yeah, please introduce yourselves.
I'm Monica, and I'm with Detroit Center for Equality and Beautification, and I'm located in the city of Detroit on Gratiot Avenue.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming, everybody. Okay.
I sent you some questions before the close of questions, but you haven't answered them yet.
They will be. You send them through Oracle, correct?
I sent them through your email that you asked me to.
No, all the questions must be submitted through Oracle. We'll talk offline on that one. I will look for it. But yes, everybody online, all questions must be submitted through Oracle. That's the only way we can track everyone's questions. So please submit any questions through Oracle as the instructions in the RFP states. Thank you. Okay, going back to the agenda. Kevin, did you want to go over some of those options in detail that you brought up, or did you want Trina to, or I don't know if you were done with that area? Okay.
I think I'm good from an overview perspective. I'm happy to provide any more detail if there's questions.
Okay, so everyone, from what do you have any questions for the folks here today? Any questions at all?
Hi, this is Georgette. I do have a few questions, and I'll try to keep them limited to make sure I give others a chance. So the first question I have, I was looking at the RFP, and I did notice that there is some scoring that's weighted for Detroit-based businesses. How would it be looked at companies that are not necessarily based in Detroit?
Okay, so there are local preferences within the RFP per our ordinance. So anyone that is a certified Detroit-based business through CREO. In other words, you need more than an address, you have to be certified through our CREO department, Civil Rights Inclusion. And if you are, then you will be assessed those additional points. If you are not, you will not be assessed any additional points. Good question.
Okay, thanks for that. I'll just ask one. Okay, sorry. I'll let
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, just one other question. As I reviewed the total RFP and heard what was described today, in that you're looking for a company to come in and handle this entire rollout end to end. If you were to put a percentage on the administrative part versus actually the thinking work, if you will, like tax law, actually having that knowledge, what would you rate it? Percentage administrative in just the doing versus the actual thinking and coming up with new ways of doing for the tax policies?
Chris, before I answer, or Nikhil, is there, because I know we have scoring, is there an official scoring between those different categories?
Take a look at that. I take a look at that criteria. I don't think it's broken down that way. You're able to answer the question. No, you're able to answer the question. You're good.
Well, then I don't want to take from Nikhil, who he's off mute as well, but I did want to provide the background that we've already done a lot of the work with the legislating and designing the law. So this phase of the project is not about creating the legislation or even analyzing our options. It is focused on implementation. That being said, it will require a technical understanding of the new law and how that compares to our current property tax law. I don't think we need people who are currently the foremost experts, but definitely able to go and review that legislation and understand what we need to have done. And the last thing I would say on that matter is that the State Tax Commission will also release guidance once the legislation's passed, with some guidance that will dictate how it needs to be administered. So there will be some further support on that front.
Yeah, and I'll add, the natural question you will have is, well, this hasn't passed yet. When will it pass? Will it pass? There's probably going to be debate about that. I will say to that, the RFP is meant to, at least in the early phase, get us focused on what we need to do, get the ducks in a row, figure out what resources we need, what processes we need to change, and how, irrespective of whether or not the legislation passes by time X or time Y. And a lot of the things that the legislation calls for directly can apply to the other programs that we have within the City of Detroit property tax already. For example, NEZs, neighborhood economic zones, where they also have two portions of the tax bill, one on the land, one on the actual improvement. So it's applicable, and we'll have to apply similar strategies to both. So there'll be a lot of work on just making sure when we can flip the switch, before we can flip the switch, how to make all these process improvements and changes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Was that it, Georgette?
I did have just one more. Thank you.
Sure.
I wanted to ask about subcontractors. So I did see where you want to know what the subcontracting plan is. What if you do not have the subcontractors completely identified by the time the proposal is due? Is that, I guess, are you requiring that the people be identified prior? Is a better way to ask that question.
I would suggest that everyone at least identify what they plan on subcontracting, if anything. You're right. You may not have gotten to the point where you've signed contracts yet to fully authorize that person to be your subcontractor. But if you could at least identify, what portion of the work is going to be subcontracted, and how much they're going to do.
Okay, that helps. Thank you very much.
Because we can always follow up after the fact, but that's something that I'm sure the evaluators are going to want to know going into it, if you're doing 100% of the work or not. Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Nicole.
Hey, okay. So I think Georgette answered one of my questions, and then Kevin just mentioned systems. So I had a question about the system implementation piece, because I do a lot of that, and I mapped out I mapped out the process for the new system that Oakland County is using. So I did the process mapping and all that stuff with IT. So that's why I was asking about, I had a question about that, but Kevin and Nikhil kind of answered that. So thank you for that. The other part is, in terms of the length of time, how long are you looking for this contract to last? Because based on the dates that both Kevin, Nikhil, and I believe Trina have given, it sounds like about 2 to 3 years or something like that. Does that sound about right? Or
I believe it was set up as a 2-year contract. Am I right, Kevin or Trina? Mr. Patel?
So
yeah, that sounds right
that's
to me.
right.
I'm trying to find in the RP, but I believe it is 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
how many?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
How many companies? Is it just one?
For in terms of how many awards there will be?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that. Go ahead, Chris. I know you.
Yeah, I was just saying that I don't know if they're looking for one or not, but the city always has the right to make multiple awards on any RFPs.
Yeah, and given the nature, so I'll go with the line that Chris said, but given the nature of this work, it is going to have to be centralized work through a single entity, right? There's not necessarily work that one company does the first portion and another company does another portion. That just will be a bit too disjointed for the whole process to be successful. Which is not to say people can't partner up and have subcontractors, of course, but a centralized administration is what would be ideal.
I just had a really quick
I think
question
you're
also,
muted,
and that
Nicole.
was,
I think Nicole was trying to say something. You're muted.
I apologize. I was trying to be respectful. Trina just mentioned that about you currently have the day-to-day. So really you're looking for an organization to come in that can actually really fill that gap, right? And just kind of take that piece on with the implementation and the processes and procedures and kind of mapping those things out. Is that correct, Kevin? Trina and Nicole? Is that really what you're saying? Just take that chunk of it and just kind of,
Correct.
okay. Okay, so those are all the questions that I have. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just add, there will be a little bit of lift of like keeping us on our project management timeline. Like, hey,
Okay.
here are the things that you have to do, and you know, you have to hit this date, or hey, what's the progress update on this? You need to execute this, right? And being able to guide us as the captain of the ship to say, these are the things that you need to do by this time, these resources, etc.
Okay.
I mean, really, and Nicole, really streamlining processes, right? So obviously you guys will be, whomever is selected, coming in as the subject matter expert, and to Nikhil's point, really having us stick to a timeline and mapping that out. Obviously things change and things happen, but the timeline is going to be pivotal, and being able to voice when we're off track and kind of steering the project back to where we can hit targeted deadlines.
Okay, I'm really excited about this. First of all, congratulations. I spent quite a bit of time with Oakland County getting those things together, and I'm just excited to see this, and to come out with a process where the assessments are listed on the statements and all of those things. I think that's a heavy lift for you guys to have done research on, but it's also amazing because, even as a taxpayer myself, for my business, I just seeing that, I just had a conversation with one of the cities. I was like, wait a minute, I don't know if this is right, but to be able to review that and see it and know that I can expect that type of correspondence is great. The other part is, I just wanted to say that as, just the processes and the streamlining piece, that was one of the most, I want to say, pivotal parts of one of the pieces that I worked for with Oakland County, really just implementing those. So I just want to say congratulations on the work that you've already done, and thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions? I thought I heard someone chime in or try to chime in. Is there any other questions for anybody in the group?
Yes, I do have one question again, and Kevin might have, I know he touched on this for sure. The names of the softwares again, I was writing them down. One of them called 2T software, and then I think it was BSNA. But what are the current softwares that you all use right now?
So we use BSNA is the provider, and they have 3 softwares that we actually use. One's just called assessing.net, one's called tax.net, and then the last one, Trina, I think you need to remind me, it's like delinquent. I know it's DDP.
DPP.net, yeah, delinquent personal property.
Thank you. So there's 3 different softwares provided by the same provider, BSNA. And then we do also work with a company called Wolverine that actually prints our bills that get sent out.
Yep.
Okay.
And yes, it's all under the BSNA umbrella. They're technically probably modules that all speak to each other. And there's process that has to happen between the 3 modules.
Okay,
hey,
great.
I have to drop. Thank you guys for the questions.
Thank you. Thank you for
looking
coming.
forward to the respondents.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions regarding anything?
Chris, I do have another question. Just looking at the RFP in specific, I was looking at this is a line item, looking at the under specific functions, excuse me, section B, excuse me. So looking at preparation and mailing of assessment notices, just looking to try to properly price, would that mailing be the responsibility of the contractor, or will the city handle that? Okay, I see Kevin shaking his head no.
No, that would be a big ask.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a vendor in place called Wolverine. I already said Wolverine, and so they handle our mailing. What we do is we basically have to export the information from our BSNA software that we send over to Wolverine in the correct format. So we already do have that process in place, but I think it should be one of the many processes that we'll want to review with this consultant to see if there's a better way we can do this. I don't think we're looking to change that vendor, but I do think it's something that we should all, whoever is working with us, be willing to review, but certainly not be in charge of mailing out 400,000 plus bills.
Okay, just, I mean, you never know. Got to ask these specifics. So thank you for that clarification. And just as a last summary of everything, I just wanted to kind of say it out loud, what I believe I've heard today. It sounds like the large part of this project is project management and making sure a plan is outlined, knowing what needs to be done first, second, third, understanding dependencies, and understanding when things are getting off track and what that impact might be. Second part sounds like there's some just simply actually implementing the project where some things are known, some things are unknown because this is new. And then the third part would be the process improvement. So the things that you're doing today as it relates to the new part, understanding what makes sense to continue and what makes sense to change or discontinue. Is that an accurate summary of what this project is?
Yeah, I would say so. And I guess I do just want to say the legislation is somewhat complicated, and again, isn't the main focus, but will require some level of technical expertise.
Got it. Thanks for that addition. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, are there any more questions before we bring this
Are
to a
you guys
close?
gonna post or send around the list of attendees? It would be great to get in contact with each other potentially if it's a fit for teamwork.
Yeah, I'll try to post. I've recorded this. I'll try to post it in Oracle.
Yeah, or
So
I'll drop my
at least
contact info in
at least the
chat.
transcript, which will have everybody's information.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay. Well, if there isn't anything else, I would still remind folks if you have any questions, that's a good idea. If everyone could go ahead and put at least their email address in the chat to make it easier when I print out the transcripts and folks want to reach out to you, it might be a little easier. So thanks. So if you have any questions at all that we didn't cover here that you think of, please go to Oracle and submit those questions, and we will get you a response, and we will CC everyone on the response to those questions. So if there's not anything else, then I would like to say thank you for coming. Anybody, Trina, Kevin, did you want to say anything else?
Thank you for facilitating, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Everyone take care and good luck.
Thank you, Chris.
All right.
Thank you so much.